With a prayer, and from there onward we hand over to Audrey Hector, the leader of the Bushmen, to take charge of the ceremony. Thank you very much.
Van Jesus is wonderbaar, wonderbaar voor mij. Kom verheerlijk zijn naam, kom verheerlijk zijn naam. Die mensen veranderen, maar Jezus nooit. Kom ons verheerlijk zijn naam. Van Jezus is wonderbaar, wonderbaar, prijs zijn naam. Die liefde van Jezus is wonderbaar, wonderbaar voor mij. Kom ons verheerlijk zijn naam. Kom ons verheerlijk zijn naam. Heavenly Father, once again, we bow down before your throne. We thank you for this day. We dedicate these days, the 13th and the 14th of February, unto you. Father God, here are your children. Here in South Africa. We dedicate every voice.
gaan naar die eerste taal wat gehoord was hier in Zuid-Afrika gebruikt. Om ons grootjes, ons voorvaders aan hierdie plekken te verwelkomen.
Saka ayong suka ase kha kwa ngui a kesi huniki kha bula ngui huniki mu ke nga ke ndo ke tu me ngwe ke si tra a ngui ke si ai suka nga asuka se asuka ke hui si suka sa si ke nga si si tra nga suka nka ne ke twa o de ke ai a ngui ke Zijn trois ngang ngang kia. Aken kun kwere si trois kwere si kru. Saka ayong suka ke kama. Ayong suka sa khau ka. Kanyang kai uniki. Oye ke si kre ke sa trois. Kanyang ka kwe krakra ngang kwere si kru. Oye sin phaba ko kema. Ayong suka. Uye si. Uye ngai uniki. Ya ka suka ha uye ngai ai tenga. Ayo wiki ke. Aka ayo suka. Ayo suka ayo. Ayo suka ayo.
Ayo suka.
Ai suka.
Ayo
Tanya ka dirin aya. Masika ayo suka ngai a. Ayo suka. Ayo.
I thank you very much, all of you, and I especially want to thank Oma Katrina that in our culture, old age is a blessing, because in old age is the evidence of centuries of mercy, grace and favor. And we as Khoi, be it San, Bushman or Kurana, we are first sons of God before we are sons of our ancestors.
Yes.
For we trust by faith that what God says in His Word is true. The peculiar thing is, throughout the centuries, some people asked us, how do you manage to believe in a God that caused your country to fall under military occupation and take your land? The answer of our ancestors were that we served God before the colonists came here. And today we are happy to say that when we listen to God, He does not care about the wrongdoing or right doing of any man. He just cares about man. Allow me to read from Colossians. It is a favorite summary of the Khoi people when it comes to what happened to us and how God stayed with us. It is Colossians 1 verse 15. Christ is the visible likeness of the invisible God. He is the firstborn Son, superior to all created things. For through Him God created everything in heaven and on earth, the seen and the unseen things, including spiritual powers, lords, rulers, and authorities. God created the whole universe through Him and for Him. Christ existed before all things, and in union with Him all things have their proper place. God is the God of centuries. And in every century, in every generation born, we have the evidence of that grace and favor. God is no liar. In every generation, from the past to the one still coming and in our one, we have the appropriate place to say, after 480 years, we can bury our unburied dead in a space of forgiveness, in the same space of forgiveness that God gave us. We are now preparing in this workshop on a journey to lay to rest the remains of our brothers and sisters that have been absent for more than 100 years. So in this process, we will place God first. In this process, we will trust God first. So I thank you all to share in our faith and favor and trust God that this process becomes a process of forgiveness, of reconciliation and healing for this country. I thank you.
Before anybody can speak on behalf of the Khoi and the San, or rather so the Bushmen, they need to get authority from leadership. And I'm the protocol chief to hand over authority to the CEO, Roxana Umar. Am I right?
That's correct.
To speak on our behalf and do what she has to do. And with this, I wish you well for the next 2 days. But the ceremony is simple. I will take off my cloak and put it over her shoulders so that she has authority to speak to His Majesties and His Excellencies, in a way they speak as intellectuals.
Protocol. Protocol.
Yes, she has authority to speak on our behalf.
Good morning. I have, as you know, authority to speak on behalf of our Indigenous people, our First Nations peoples. My name is Roxana Umar. I've already been introduced. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the SYMPOSIUM of South Africa. And EZICO has been involved in establishing human remains management protocols for many years and has been actively participating with the development of national policies Today, we hope to enhance the development of such policies through the assistance of the Commonwealth Association of Museums and some of our neighbors. Namibia is here, Botswana, government and community leaders most important. We welcome all community members and are gratified by your attendance and participation in these proceedings. Welcome. As you know, we are here to discuss repatriation procedures and possibilities with regard to the unethically acquired individuals throughout Southern Africa between 1850 to 1930, and who collected under the auspices and distasteful circumstances in the name of racial pseudosciences. Now, this is an opportunity to discuss the challenges faced by museums, communities, and other sister organizations in Southern Africa throughout Namibia, Botswana, and of course South Africa. It's also an opportunity for scientists to share what knowledge has been gained through the study of the ethical skeletal collections. And as you know, the workshop goal is to further develop a policy statement on ancestral remains, repatriation, and in the development of a memorandum of understanding between Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa. Now this workshop is taking the first concrete steps towards putting in place the necessary policies that enable the repatriation process, which respects both community members and institutional requirements. Note that there have been many others as well, and they've been very successful, and we'll be hearing more about those previously. But this is actually meant to be also the policy making for Southern Africa, so that we can have a policy that will suit each country and be able to work over the borders of our countries. And it's to encourage cooperative relationships between institutions and communities through opening channels of communication and keeping them open. It's an opportunity for community members, experts in the field, academics, museum employees, institutional partners to explain what it is they do and the value to contemporary communities in collected information. Now, I realize that this is an exceptionally sensitive topic and issue, and it's going to open up old wounds, both old and new. And when we've come together to share this information and to discuss ideas surrounding these topics, these issues, very sensitive they are, we will always encounter differing views, statements which we may not agree with, or suggestions that we are uncomfortable with. They may even insult us, our livelihoods, or our beliefs. However, it is important, let's all be patient, diligent, and be very respectful to ensure a holistic and inclusive discussion so that everybody feels like they are being heard. Understanding the viewpoints of others whom we may come in conflict with is the first step towards finding appropriate solutions and mutual agreements. And it is in this spirit of inclusiveness and respect that I welcome all of you to this Human Remains Symposium. Our hope is that this will be a productive 2-day session and that the connections that are established today will take us as countries, institutions, communities, and individuals towards rewarding working relationships and help build trust between institutions and the people they are intended to represent. So without further ado, I would like to say thank you to everybody who has, in fact, made the journey thus far. We want to hear your voices at this workshop as well.
You may be wondering why a Métis woman from Canada is involved in this process at all. And it's really only in the context of the Commonwealth Association of Museums. And we've been supporting the development of this project over time. So I just want to say a few words about what the Commonwealth Association of Museums is and why we're involved in this. So our vision for museums throughout the Commonwealth is museums in which museum workers and communities are able to fully participate in the development of a peaceful, equitable and sustainable society. And CAM works to support the development of museums and museum workers throughout the Commonwealth. We're having a very important event in Calgary, Alberta in June of this year. This is the 150th anniversary of Canadian Confederation. And to commemorate that, we're holding a tour of Indigenous heritage sites in southern Alberta, an Indigenous Heritage Roundtable, which will talk about heritage issues related to Indigenous peoples internationally throughout the Commonwealth, and then a 2-day symposium about heritage and nation building. This theme has been chosen to commemorate our 150th anniversary of Canadian Confederation so that we can really question issues of national identity, human rights, participatory governance, migration is an important theme today, and human remains management will be very much present at this symposium. So the results of the workshop we're holding here will be presented and discussed further in Calgary. The Commonwealth Association of Museums has a long history of interest in post-colonial museology. We held our last event in Canada in 1994, a long time ago. We try to meet throughout the Commonwealth. And our theme then was curatorship, Indigenous perspectives in post-colonial society. So it was really in the very early time of people starting to think about the relationship between museums and Indigenous peoples. And this publication is freely downloadable from our website. We have just recently participated in a workshop last year at about this time in South Asia on access in museums in South Asia, which is particularly about people with various types of abilities. We held a workshop in the Caribbean about museum education and professional development. I just came from a workshop last week in Athens on migration cities, which is a current project that we are developing in collaboration with the International Council of Museums. And we have a number of publications. Recent one about access was just released in December. There was one coming out of a decade of work in Africa, a manual for children in African museums, which is also freely downloadable from our website. We're in a position where we have a relationship both to the International Council of Museums and to the Commonwealth itself, to the Commonwealth heads of government. And so we often write declarations arising out of our events that we are able to take to those forums. We have a certificate in museum studies, a distance learning program. So if you have people in your communities who are interested in receiving some basic education, it's very basic, in museum studies that will help them in their work in your communities, I encourage you to take a look at that or to speak to me about it. We have an internship program, and so Keely, who many of you have met or corresponded with, she's an intern from Canada who has been here since the 1st of October. And so we provide an opportunity for one person a year to go somewhere in the Commonwealth to work on some project. But ideologically we support the Commonwealth values. So in connection to this particular workshop, the values are human rights, tolerance, respect, and understanding. And that's why we're interested in this topic, because we feel that it's very important to resolve these past issues. I've actually been through this myself as a descendant. I have 3 ancestors who were buried in the Fort Edmonton Cemetery, and people had been removed from that site and had to be repatriated. And it was an 8-year process for us to go through this. So I know it can be very emotionally difficult and rewarding at the end. The other thing that CAM is interested in is supporting the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So again, in this context, I think it's goal number 3, to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. You know, for many people, this separation from your ancestors is troubling, and so we will be healthier when we resolve this. To reduce inequality within and among countries, to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. So these are some of the reasons that we feel that it's important to approach this subject. Well, the Commonwealth has had a focus over the last 5 years on participatory governance. And when they first introduced this, we thought, well, how does participatory governance relate to museums? But this is really a great example of that. It's a question of involving communities in the decision-making, involving communities in moving these issues forward, so that it's not just a top-down government declaration, this is the way it will be, but we have to work together to find solutions for this. So that's another reason that we're interested in this topic as a good example of participatory governance. So this is a little model that we created. These are Canada geese, so I have to bring my little Canadian image into this, but on the top you'll see the growing focus within museums, moving away from object-centered institutions to institutions that are more relevant, socially responsible, concerned about contemporary issues. And on the bottom, you see the difference between considering the audience as separate from you and then becoming much more consultative, collaborative, sharing authority. So we're reaching the stage where at the front there we look at participatory governance and developing these ideas together. So CAM in Africa, we've been involved in Africa for many, many years. In 1995, our president was Emmanuel Arinze from Nigeria. Shortly after the end of apartheid, we came to South Africa. We've been involved with a number of other organizations, museum organizations that have been working in this area. So there's a conservation group, the Western African Museums Program, the Southern African Development Community Association of Museums and Monuments. So there have been a number of organizations all working collaboratively over the years. Nelson Wandile was himself a patron of the Commonwealth Association of Museums, and he felt that the conservation of all of our legacies as a priority for nation building. Museums should reflect a message of tolerance and peace, of respect for all cultures and for the environment. This is a photograph of former President, the late Emmanuel Arinze, visiting in Botswana. So in 1997, we formed a group for children in African museums. It's called GCAM for short, and then there have been a number of workshops here over the years in Zambia and Kenya. People have been getting together and talking about how to make museums more friendly to children. Malawi, Stanger, Calabar. And the most recent thing that we did in Africa prior to this was a project on re-engaging with Zimbabwe through arts and culture and looking at ways of improving the relationship between Zimbabwe and the Commonwealth. In terms of the Human Remains Management Project, I'm not an expert in this field, although as I say, I've been through the process as a descendant. But our role is really to broker the relationship among the Namibia, Botswana, and South African partners in this, to provide the internship. We're applying for another intern. We have to apply for the funding. So we're hoping to bring an intern to Namibia next year to continue work on this project. And then we've been involved with the partners in trying to pull together the funding that is helping to support this project. We expect the project will go on over the next 3 years or perhaps more, and we're optimistic that we will be able to get funding. We don't have any funding beyond the current internship at this point, but we are working towards that goal. So, thank you. That's a bit about CAM, and if you'd like to talk to me about it, I'd be happy to address any questions.